Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. So in a few more days, Wilds of Eldraine will have launched. That is if you're watching this as I upload it. If you're late to seeing this video, then Wilds of Eldraine is already launched and enjoy the cards. So today we're going to talk about not the 10 best cards in the set, but my personal 10 favorite cards that we've seen. So let's just jump right into it. So in no particular order, because this isn't ascending, descending, any of that nonsense. This is just 10 cards from the set that I'm really excited to build decks around. So let's take a look at the first card. That first card is the Elvis Archivist. Elvis Archivist, 1 colorless and a green, 0/1. Whenever one or more artifacts enter the battlefield under your control, put 2 +1/+1 counters on Elvish Archivist. This ability triggers only once each turn. And also, whenever one or more enchantments enter the battlefield under your control, draw a card. This ability triggers only once each turn. Why I'm excited to play with this is because this plays into the theme of Kamigawa Neon Dynasty of artifacts and enchantments mattering. I think that a green, white, black deck with this can actually be pretty powerful because there's a lot of stuff in both white and in black that really care about you playing, well, not necessarily playing a ton of artifacts, enchantments, but have at least one of either or both being on the table at any given time. Cards like Soul Exchange or like any of the rats that get extra bonuses for having one or both, or the white spells that will give you added effects for having artifacts and enchantments on the table. I really think that this could be like a real good role player in a deck like that, and that's why I'm excited to play with it. Next up, also in white and black, let's talk about Ariata of the Charmed Apple. This is the Wicked Witch style of card from the Snow White fable. So for a white and a black, you get yourself a 2/4 human warlock. And it says each creature that's enchanted by an aura you control can't attack you or planeswalkers you control. And at the beginning of your end step, each opponent loses X life and you gain X life, where X is the number of auras you control. This card is going to be really great with another card that we'll talk about in a bit. And that card is Asinine Antics. Asinine Antics, it's a blue card, so it's not really in white or black, but you could very easily play this in Esper. So if you were to build like an Esper style deck, like not necessarily control, maybe mid-range, something like that, that runs a lot of the roll token generators, a lot of like the cursed roll stuff, and you just apply it to all of your opponent's creatures, suddenly your opponent is locked down. They can't attack you. All their creatures are just 1/1 little chuds. They're not doing anything except rotting on the table. And you're sucking life from your opponent at the end of every turn. It's kind of perfect. It's like I love the design of this card, and I'm really looking forward to building a deck around Ariata of the Charmed Apple. And next up, we'll talk about that card, Asinine Antics. Asinine Antics is a 2 and 2 blue. It's a sorcery, and it reads, you may cast Asinine Antics as though it had flash if you pay 2 or more to cast it. For each creature your opponents control, create a cursed roll token attached to that creature. And that cursed roll turns them into blank 1/1s. It's like they do they lose all the abilities? Let me reread this. You control another roll up and yeah. Oh no. Okay. So they keep their abilities, but they become 1/1s. And them becoming 1/1s, having the cursed roll on them, that's an aura, meaning Ariata of the Charmed Apple just lock down all of them. So long as you keep an Ariata on the table, which won't be hard if you're playing reanimation effects or counter spells or other protection spells, which white does have in Bounty, then it won't be very hard to keep that lockdown going long enough for you to just drain the life out of your opponent. And I'm really excited to build a deck around those two cards. It's going to be fun. Next up, we have the Heartflame Duelist. And the Heartflame Duelist is, for 1 and a white, you get a 3/1 creature. It is a human knight, and it says instant and sorcery spells you control have lifelink. So any damage-dealing spell will gain you life. You turn any lightning bolt effect into a lightning helix. You turn cards like Burn Down the House or Brotherhood's End into board wipes that heal you for every creature that got damaged by it. So if like there are 5 creatures on the battlefield, and you cast Brotherhood's End, it deals 3 to those 5 creatures, you just gain 15 life. That sounds pretty good to me. And also, it comes in with an adventure. And the adventure is Heartflame Slash. 2 colorless and a red, instant adventure. Heartflame Slash deals 3 damage to any target. So that's player, creature, planeswalker, battle, whatever you want to knock down, this card's got you. So for the pretty efficient mana costs of only 3 on the instant and 2 on the creature, this card really has my brewer's noodle going. I'm really excited to build a deck around this card as well. Now, would I build this Boros? Probably not. I would probably build this Mardu. Just because it gives you access to like other really decent reanimation effects. It gives you access to cards like Archangel of Wrath, better kill cards, great board wipes, things like that. You could build a pretty solid mid-range or control deck out of Mardu. And I think this card could be a pretty good role player in that build. Next up, we're going to talk about Hildas Crown of Winter. So for this, it's only 3 mana, and it's a legendary artifact, and it says 1 tap target creature. This ability costs 1 less to activate during your turn. And pay 3, sacrifice Hilda's Crown of Winter, draw a card for each tapped creature your opponents control. Now, if you're ancient like me, you'll know that this card is basically an upgrade to the old Icy Manipulator. Icy Manipulator is an old artifact that had a casting cost of 4, not 3. And it just read, pay 1, tap to tap another creature. It was really good for its time, and this is just a power-corrupted version of that, especially with that secondary effect where you get to draw a card for each creature that just attacked you. If your opponent comes at you with like 4 creatures, sacrifice this, draw 4 cards, and then play another one on the next turn, because this is a legendary artifact, so you can only have 1 on the table at any given time. But if you're drawing a bunch of cards, you'll probably draw into another one. So another really good like control archetype effect. I hope that I'm not overestimating this card. I mean, I don't think I am. I mean, it's a really good card. I mean, even if you choose to do it on your turn, the tap effect costs 1 less to activate. So pretty solid. Yeah. And also bear in mind, the secondary effect of 3 and sacrifice does not require you to tap it. So you could use the tap effect and then sacrifice it to draw cards. So pretty good. All right. Next up, we're going to talk about another legendary artifact that I think is going to be pretty all over the place. And this is Agathas Soul Cauldron. Agathas Soul Cauldron is another legendary artifact, costs 2 to cast. It reads, you may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to activate abilities of creatures you control. So that's pretty good. Also, creatures you control with +1/+1 counters on them have all activated abilities of all creatures exiled with Agathas Soul Cauldron. Finally, tap, exile target card from a graveyard. When a creature card is exiled this way, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. So, at the worst, this is going to be like a great sideboard card in every deck. Like, because it's colorless, anyone can play it. And it kind of takes the place in sideboards where a card like was it Hearse from New Capenna would be, or Graveyard Trespasser would be in black. And the fact that it gives +1/+1 counters, grants extra abilities to other creatures, and just taps to exile anything. You don't have to exile a creature. You can exile any card that your opponent might want to reuse. Like if your opponent is playing Control and they're running Memory Deluge, just remove it from the graveyard so they can't flash it back. I mean, this card is going to be ever present for like the next couple of years in Standard. You're going to be seeing a lot of this card. Okay. Next up, we're going to look at Lich Knight's Conquest. This is a very interesting card to me. It gives me reminiscence of like Patriarch's Bidding and Living Death. It's a really cool effect. So for 4 colorless and a black, sorcery, sacrifice any number of artifacts, enchantments, and or tokens. Return that many creature cards from your graveyard to the battlefield. It is a mass reanimate spell from your graveyard only. Bear that in mind. So from your graveyard. So you have to fill your graveyard with a bunch of cool cards that you want to put back into play. And then sacrifice like a bunch of treasure tokens or like some blood tokens, because you'll probably be playing this in like red-black or maybe Grixis. So like, and also you can sacrifice the roll tokens off of creatures if you want to. Like, and that just gets back a full board of really nastiness from your graveyard. I expect to see this being played a lot too. Okay, let's move on. This one is probably going to be the card that I personally play the most, and this is Rankles Prank. For 2 colorless and 2 black, sorcery. Choose 1 or more. Each player discards 2 cards. Each player loses 4 life. Or each player sacrifices 2 creatures. Now, remember when I said choose 1 or more? That means you could choose 1, 2, or all 3 options on this card. Like if you need to just end the game right now and your opponent's at 4 life, just use that one option. Or use it to make people lose 4 life and also sacrifice 2 creatures. It's a fantastic control effect. Or if you're like me and you really like discard, make both players discard 2 cards. Now, think about this for a moment. Let's say you are playing Reanimate. Rankles Prank only benefits you. You choose like the option of each player loses 2 creatures and discards 2 cards. You just discard cards that you want to reanimate, or sacrifice creatures that you might want to reanimate and get their enters the battlefield triggers again, and then cast like Lich Knight's Conquest, sacrifice a bunch of treasure tokens or blood tokens or what have you, and get all those things right back onto the battlefield. Like, say for example, you're playing Grixis and you have Atali and let's say a Corpse Mangler in your hand, and you have like some like Ravenous Rat style cards or Corpse Appraiser in play. It's like you just choose those 2 options. Those go away, and then they come right back because of the Lich Knight's Conquest. It's like, yeah, that's a lot of mana to activate. It's 9 mana total to do it in 1 turn, but it doesn't have to be this turn. You can be across multiple turns. It's just a really, really cool effect, and I'm really excited to play with it. So let's move on. Moving on to another black card. You know, it's almost like I really like playing black. Anyways, Beseech the Mirror is another great card in this same like vein of like bargain style cards. So for 1 and 3 black, it's a sorcery with bargain. And it says search your library for a card, any card, exile it, face down, then shuffle. If this spell was bargained, you may cast the exiled card without paying its mana cost if the spell's mana value was 4 or less. Then, you may cast the spell if it's 4 or less, or if you didn't bargain, you just put it into your hand. It's an amazing card. It's absolutely crazy. And especially because guess what costs only 4 mana? Rankles Prank. So you can search up your Rankles Prank and cast it immediately for maximum effect if you wanted to. Also, what else costs 4 mana? Phyrexian Obliterator, Shale Dread, any of like the 4 mana creatures that would be relevant to you at any time. You can go and dig up what was it? Atsushi, the red spirit dragon. It's like there's so many great things that you can just go dig up and put directly into play. Let's say, for instance, you're playing Mill. Go get Jace the Perfected Mind. He only costs 4. It's a stupid good tutor, and I'm really excited to play this. Okay, and last up, but certainly not least, because this is not in any order, this is Ashyak, the Wicked Manipulator. For 3 and 2 black, you get a 5 loyalty Planeswalker, and he has a static effect, and it is, if you would pay life while your library has at least that many cards in it, exile that many cards from the top of your library instead. So, for example, if you have a Tenacious Underdog in your graveyard and you want to blitz it into play, instead of paying that 2 life, you exile 2 cards off the top of your library instead, so negating that life loss. Now, its abilities, +1, look at the top 2 cards of your library, exile one of them, and put the other into your hand. So, not too bad. It's basically look at the top 2 cards of your library and choose your favorite. -2, create 2 1/1 black nightmare creature tokens with, at the beginning of combat on your turn, if a card was put into exile this turn, put a +1/+1 counter on that creature. So, that's not too bad, because that trigger doesn't go until you go to your combat step. So you could spend the first part of your turn doing Ashyak's exile effect. So you can pretty much guarantee that your creatures will get bigger every combat as an effect of Ashyak just being on the table. Or just by finding an effect to pay life every turn. Let's say, for example, Phyrexian Arena. Phyrexian Arena, you pay 1 life and draw an extra card every turn. Boom, that's it right there. Easy. Yeah. And it's -7. This is the ultimate ability, is target player exiles the top X cards of their library, where X is the total mana value of cards you own in exile. So if you exile enough cards from your own library, you can turn that effect onto your opponent. So let's say, for example, you play a bunch of like cards that have like a really high casting cost, like say like Breach the Multiverse or Atali or Titan of Industry. It's like any of these cards with like 7-8 mana cost in them, and you just get this up to 7 and you just blow out your opponent. And it's not that hard to get Ashyak to 7, because that's only 2 turns of using the +1 or 2 proliferates. Easy. Yeah, you just get up to 7, knock it out, and then boom, blast the deck away. Pretty solid. I really like this card. Since we're only getting 1 Planeswalker in this set, I'm glad that it's a pretty powerful one. It's like I can see Ashyak being played quite a bit. So that is it for my list of my favorite top 10 cards of the set. What are your favorite cards that you're looking forward to playing with? I would like to know. Let me know in the comments. And if you want to see more videos from me, not necessarily like this, because once this new set goes live, I'm going right back to building decks. I'm probably going to spend some time continuing my starter deck upgrade series. Because I've been receiving a lot of feedback from people saying that they've gotten a lot of value out of those new new player starter decks that I've been upgrading and posting to the channel. So I like seeing that, 1, people are enjoying what I'm putting out, and 2, that there are new players coming to the game every day, and those decks are being helpful to those people. So that makes me happy. It makes me feel a little validated, you know? So anyways, that's the video. Subscribe, like, all that nonsense. You're on YouTube, you know what to do. So, till next time, take care of yourself.